Hello, and welcome to our latest installment of Spartans Step Up. This web series is coordinated by the Alumni Association of Case Western Reserve University. I'm Srinivas Rao, the current president of the Alumni Association of Case Western Reserve University. For today's episode, I'll be speaking with Michael Oakes, Senior Vice President of Research and Technology Management at Case Western. Michael joined the university last summer. Prior to his appointment at CRU, he was the interim vice president for research at University of Minnesota. While at Minnesota, Michael led a $1.1 billion research enterprise that included sponsored projects and regulatory compliance, as well as 11 interdisciplinary centers and institutes. I'm pleased to have him join me today. Welcome, Michael.
Thank you so much. I'm delighted to be here.
Great. Michael, I have a few questions for you, and then we have some questions that were submitted to us when viewers registered for the series.
Cool.
So let's first talk about the position itself. What does the Senior Vice President of Research and Technology Management oversee?
Yeah, terrific question. The Senior Vice President of Research and Technology Management, the role at this university, like many others, is the person in charge of the research enterprise, federal grants, making sure that the labs are safe, making sure that faculty researchers can do their work with respect to the bureaucracy that we all face. Other parts of the job deal with compliance. We were joking a moment ago that some call my job the go-to-jail guy because there's so much compliance where they're working with animal models or human beings or chemicals, radioactivity, all of that stuff. So my job is to promote and assure compliance for the entire research enterprise, which at a big university like Case and others is quite a task.
Great. We know this was an inaugural position. What about this opportunity was attractive to you before you came here?
Yeah, thanks so much. It is. It's the inaugural position. President Kaler changed the organization for his cabinet. The prior vice presidents for research would report to the provost, the senior academic officer of a university, and that's done typically at smaller schools. He changed it to a model that's just more typical and more recent at big sort of industrial research universities, sometimes called R1s. These are the AAU universities, the big research things. So I report directly to President Kaler, Eric, and the structure is such that my team works on all the compliance, all the administration, all the support, all the tech transfer. And this role, of course, is now, similar to the provostial role. And in some sense, if you want, not everyone understands this, but at a big university, there's the president and the provost, typically second in command, if you want, chief academic officer, and then the vice president for research with respect to the academic, intellectual environment. So that's what the role is about, and it's quite a journey.
Great. You've been in this position for just over 9 months. What are your initial observations?
Yeah. Well, first, if I start broadly, I grew up in Massachusetts, lived in Boston and Washington, D.C. A little over 20 years ago, I went out to University of Minnesota to be a professor. Thought I'd spend a year there, maybe 3. 20 went by. It's crazy how that works.
Time flies.
Yeah, time flies. And by training and craft, I'm an epidemiologist. Maybe the only thing good of COVID is people realized what an epidemiologist was, and many people thought they were epidemiologists because of Twitter training. So I did that. I was, professor all that went through the ranks. And then found myself interested in not only doing my research, but leading research. So I went through the ranks and eventually was running the enterprise at Minnesota, very big place, very complex organization. I was interested in the way life comes. My kids had just hit college, and I was wondering, should I stay at Minnesota, go someplace else? And what I really wanted to do is to have an impact at a major research university like Case Western Reserve, because I feel like I have something to say about how research universities exist and do things in society. So I have sort of a vision, a mission, if you want. We can talk all about it. But I wanted a role that would let me do that and have impact. And then I was attracted to Case Western for many reasons. One, as probably everyone knows, the tremendous history, the scientific history, the great culture of technology and research and combining humanities training at Case Western Reserve. Terrific history. But also at University of Minnesota, I met this president there, Eric Kaler. I was on his transition committee. I was the faculty representative to help then President Kaler become president of Minnesota, I think about 8 years ago-ish, maybe 10. And really admired the man, really admired his leadership. I thought amongst university presidents that I got to know directly and indirectly, Eric Kaler really understood the mission of a big modern research university. Some people joke who know him that he's prone to action, and I really like that because I also have that genetic flaw to do those things. So I was attracted to the role. I was attracted to Case Western because of its history, and attracted especially because of President Kaler and what he wanted to do here at Case Western. So ultimately, I thought this would be a great fit for me personally as a leader, someone who wants to do stuff. And also, I thought I could have an impact. Time will tell. But that's what drew me. And then I didn't know much about Cleveland. I didn't have anything negative. I just hadn't spent a lot of time here. I sort of drove through on my youthful trips to family in Midwest from Massachusetts. But as I interviewed and talked with folks, it just seemed to fit. I felt like I was making more friends in greater Cleveland in like 2 weeks than I had in many years at Minnesota. It just felt a natural thing. So couldn't wait to get here, and so thrilled and honored that I am.
Well, we are glad you're here. So in the last 9 months, if you looked at what accomplishments the university has had, what are the few things that come to the top, or what are you most proud of?
Yeah, thanks. As I mentioned, I have this genetic flaw of doing things. And a couple of things, let me talk a little bit about this. The trustees and the President Kaler knew that the research enterprise, usually measured by the amount of money spent on research, that's sort of the coin of the realm. The research enterprise at Case Western has been falling for over 10 years, and falling rather precipitously. This matters a lot in our reputation, our standing amongst other leading universities, our friends on the coast especially. So we're falling relative to others, which is not good. It also matters for how we train and educate our students, especially the undergrads, because one of the things about a modern American research university, the basic model is that as opposed to a teaching college, tremendous even places like Amherst or Carleton, whatever else, the students come here to not only learn from tremendous professors, but those professors are doing research. And the cartoon quip, you might say, is that the professors here are not only teaching the textbook, they're writing the textbook. They're on the cutting edge. And so that's an advantage to undergrads in any field to come to a place like Case Western, because they're getting knowledge and discovery and excellent teaching from people at the cutting edge. So that's why the reputation matters in the research realm. They're extremely linked. So the figures, the data show that we've fallen. We've fallen relative to some of our peers, Washington University in St. Louis, or Emory in Atlanta. And so my job, as per President Kaler, is to substantially grow the research enterprise. To put some numbers on it, we have about a $400 million total research expenditure or enterprise. If we had just maintained our rank from about 10 years ago, we should be about $611 million, a $200+ million shortfall. So President Kaler tasked me with reversing the decline and growing. Grow $200 million plus as fast as possible, whatever that means. I mean, it's really difficult. And as you know from your organization, change is difficult. Change in any big organization is difficult. I'll dare say it's especially difficult at a university, which hasn't changed much for over 1,000 years. So, what am I proud of? Well, in some sense, my job is to help the faculty, the real people at the front lines, have more success in their research, have more fun at work, grow by getting typically grants from the federal government or corporations to do cutting-edge research, whether it's something in, nanotechnology, material science, engineering, or obviously in the health sciences area, which we're very strong at, a new cellular therapy to cure cancer, things like this. So my job is to facilitate all that. There's two parts of that. One is sort of direct help. I have an opportunity to work with the deans and the provosts. The deans run the schools, the provost runs the university academically. So I partner with the deans and the provosts to find terrific talent, bring them here, frankly, with money, and support and all those important things. So part of my job is to find and help the deans do their job, and therefore help the faculty, the tremendous folks around here, get the research dollars they need from the federal government to do their cutting-edge research. So that's part of it. The other part, of course, is to help with the bureaucracy. It's hard, I think, for many people to imagine just how much bureaucracy there is in modern research. If we're going to work with mice to discover something that might cure cancer, there's just rooms full of regulations.
Correct.
Obviously, working with human beings, there's rooms or houses full of regulations. Radioactive material, chemicals, all this stuff. So there's friction everywhere. And one of the challenges faculty researchers have if they want to do something innovative is they hit this wall, the wall of bureaucracy. So my job is to minimize the friction, and this will bring me to what I'm proud of. So in the 9+ months I've been here, we've done a lot. One of the things, depending how you count, there's about 9 compliance units that report to me. This group hadn't really been in the same room together. They've never really worked together as a team. So the theme of this success in the past year is teamwork. That's what I'm proud of. So now this group meets together twice a month. I feed them lunch so they come. And they're literally working on ways to make things go smoother, whether it's computer system issues, whether it's how does a faculty submit a grant, or whatever the areas are. So this team is now super effective. They're actually having fun, and they're looking forward to the meeting. So that's one thing, getting that team. Next, when a researcher or team of researchers want to submit a big grant, maybe something of the scale $10 million plus, which is very important for us in our growth. All of the small things in that process can really bog everything down.
Right.
This is things like getting people's resumes, we call them bio sketches, from all the researchers and all that your collaborative things, subcontracts, intellectual property, scheduling meetings amongst the team of researchers. The calendar stuff, because everyone's so busy, is super hard. So I stood up a team to facilitate that, really a grants development team for large, typically interdisciplinary grants. We call it strategic partnership and research collaboration, SPARC.
Right. Nice.
SPARC team, everything needs to have an acronym. So what SPARC team does, there's currently 4 people, we're about to make it 5 because it's growing, is help the researchers just worry about the science. The SPARC team takes care of all the other stuff, the calendars, the resumes, all the forms that need to be filled out.
Great.
So that frees the researchers just to be creative, which is part of my job, right? Help them just worry about the science and we'll take care of the rest. So I'm super proud of that. Again, a team orientation. Another very thing I'm super proud about is the federal government, the National Science Foundation, has been funding science, especially since World War II.
Right.
They've often or almost always funded projects. Professor Smith or Jones, you're going to study nucleus. Here's some money, go at it.
Yeah.
Terrific. And it's been a major driver for the American growth in research and development. We could talk more about that. Recently, the National Science Foundation and other federal funding agencies have realized that they should not only fund projects, but in simplest terms, fund places. And not just universities, but places as ecosystems. So they have an initiative out called the National Science Foundation, or NSF Engines, and it's fairly new. So NSF Engines is a major shift in federal government funding for research and technology, where they're asking people from all different organizations to come together and work on a problem that's important for the local economy and the national R&D ecosystem, so we're competitive in the world. So I put together a team with a lot of help of our university, other local universities, Kent, Cleveland State, et cetera, industry, local government, unions, K-12 educators, to respond to this, to focus us on, locally, on sustainable manufacturing and all that that implies. So sustainable manufacturing is one of President Kaler and my key drivers. Why? Well, one, because it's very important to the world. As a young man, a student with long hair and listening to crazy music, I hoped that the world would be less consumptive, that we could save the planet by eating less and buying less and all that. The dream of a young person. Maybe that'll happen. But I think what needs to happen certainly is, again, to be simple here, more sustainable manufacturing, from green steel manufacturing to semiconductor waste and efficiency, to production lines, and of course, green products. Here in greater Cleveland, we're the sort of hub of manufacturing for the country. We are the breadbasket of manufacturing. I want to help us lead the transition that must happen into sustainable manufacturing, not just manufacturing, but sustainable, writ large. So there's jobs, there's people can, have a good life, and of course, reduce environmental degradation. So it looks like, I'm pretty sure, but I can't say it's sure yet, we're going to get one of these NSF Engines grants.
Excellent.
For sustainable manufacturing. And the thing is, it's terrific for the region, but it's really, again, about the teamwork, institutions, persons that have never worked together, finally doing so. So that's a major accomplishment. Finally, I'm really proud, and this is related, of the things my team is doing to have a different model for corporate engagement.
Great.
One of my mantras, we talked about this a little bit ago, is that a major research university like ours should become known as a problem-solving institution.
Right.
We should help, and this isn't only in an engineering framework that you know so well, but it might be in a humanities framework. It's a mindset. I like to say, what did Dostoevsky learn about Nietzsche, right? These humanities really driving stuff. So that's a problem to be thought about and, addressed. And so where the humanities scholars are typically trying to take us from what is to what ought, what's moral, what's meaning, love, suffering, all those great things in poetry. The engineers are like, how do we build a better mousetrap?
Yes.
So all of this, though, is problem solving in a mindset sort of way. So as I think about corporate engagement, typically the model has been, how do a university like ours, get money from Amazon, from Lubrizol, from 3M, have them give us money to do something. Cool. But what those CEOs and CTOs really want is their problems solved.
Correct.
So if we have a mindset of changing what we're doing to getting a grant to helping them solve a problem, terrific, that'll grow. But more importantly, going back to the change in the federal government's interest in R&D research as taxpayer investment, partnering with industry, whether it's some of the metallurgic companies, biotech, we're so strong here, to go to the federal government as partners between a corporate partner and us, or whole industries and us, like sustainable manufacturing, and say to the federal government, we collectively want some money to do some great things and grow stuff. So that shift into a different relationship with our corporate partners, I'm terrifically proud of. And there's one more corollary for that, which is how do we, when our scientists discover new things, our engineers build a better mousetrap, how do we get that out into the commercial market? Research universities are terrific at discovery and are terrible, properly so, at scaling and commercialization. So there's a point where those two meet, and that's in the technology transfer offices. And we have one here, a terrific one, Technology Transfer Office, it's called, TTO. They report to me. And what we're working on is to think about how to help our discoveries and engineering insights get out to the commercial markets. It's done all over the country. So I'm looking to sort of revolutionize that. What is troublesome for the small businesses, for the corporations, the big ones like 3M or whatever, is the friction, the bureaucracy, and the uncertainty of the IP, intellectual property negotiations. There's a way to streamline that. And it really comes down to thinking about long-term relationships, team building, as opposed to fighting over pebbles for some potential future unicorn. That rarely, as you know, occurs. So this is, again, a change in the practice, the mindset, and I'm terrifically proud of that. Again, it's about relationships. So.
Well, that's quite a few things that you have a great,
busy,
very, very good start on, and looking forward to kind of hearing more about those as we go.
Terrific.
As you look at these good starts, it's like what have you picked as your short-term and long-term goals?
Yeah, terrific. Well, it won't surprise you now that my short-term goal is to substantially grow the research enterprise through things I can control today.
Correct.
That's the friction. That's the teamwork necessary. That's the data systems, all that stuff that creates a problem. It's also short-term, building relationships with our industry partners. It's an interesting question. A lot of people in my roles will meet with their counterparts in industry, the CTO or CEOs or VP of R&D. We have terrific lunches and conversations. Not much happens. So I am endeavoring to have their researchers and our researchers get together in a room, and I'll buy lunch or whatever else, so that the scientists on both sides are actually talking, building relationships. So our scientists might, have a lunch on me with some Lubrizol scientists. And they'll ask, well, what are you working on? What's your problem? And back and forth. And then the idea here is that the Lubrizol scientist, for example, says, hey, I've got this problem, and our scientists can help fix it. And then that creates a new question for our scientist to bring back to her lab and do, again, basic discovery. So that's the immediate thing of getting that done. Long term, I'm interested in helping the president and others do something terrific, which is to build a new science and engineering building here on campus. We can talk about that. So that so-called interdisciplinary science and engineering building, ISCB as its name, but with the proper donation, it could be the Amazon building, to make that a success, to make sure that it's set up for success for the campus, for the world, obviously the researchers there. Part of that, long term, is to also connect it with opportunities for technology transfer that I described. So this happens in labs, but what we're missing in Greater Cleveland, and certainly at Case Western Reserve, is an incubator building where our proto-businesses, sometimes just a person with a test tube or whatever, need some space, need some equipment to get that business rolling, which will eventually grow, we hope, create jobs, and sometimes become a terrific business unto itself or be purchased by a larger company, and that's American capitalism. So in addition to the interdisciplinary science and engineering building, I'm now endeavoring to create really a renovation of a building that we now own, sometimes referred to as the Bio-E building. going to renovate that and make it a cutting-edge, beautiful technology incubator for small businesses.
Great.
Yes, for our Case Western entrepreneurs, but also for the greater Cleveland community. And if you've ever looked at some of these spaces, they're really terrific. The sort of benchmark ones are in Boston, Kendall Square, called Lab Central, a biotechnology incubator, which is just driving tremendous things. And it's a lab where there's a community of people, and they're all small businesses of sorts. What the building offers is space, good coffee, and Wi-Fi and such like that. And sometimes some locations of venture capitalists and other people to help get the businesses going. Another one is at University of Pennsylvania in Philadelphia called Pennovation Center. Everyone's got one. Case Western doesn't. So the longer term strategy is to do the ISEB, the science building, to leverage the ThinkBox terrific maker center we have. And then across the street will be this incubator. We're building an ecosystem for success. Teamwork again.
Nice. These are all great ideas. And we have a large alumni base over many, many years. So how can the alumni community be of service or resource to your operation?
Yeah, the alumni of Case Western Reserve that you lead and represent, it might be second to none. I mean, this place, it's really terrific. I've been around other universities, so I love the alumni network here, and I'm delighted to be more engaged. I think, first of all, the alumni can help appreciate the link between the research enterprise and the more traditional undergraduate experience. The graduate students we have typically get engaged in research one way or the other, so they get it. But the undergrads, who are amazing, I mean, they're all over, to appreciate that they were, if they didn't know it, at a very special institution where, again, their teachers, their professors, are cutting edge. So when they appreciate the link between going to school and the research enterprise, then they see the importance of what President Kaler is doing, growing the research to grow better teaching, and off we go on a great virtuous cycle. So one thing is the recognition of how this thing's working. Second, related, they can support the growth, the really required growth for reputation, for success that President Kaler's asked me to lead. This means that change has to happen, and change is difficult. So appreciating that the change is coming and really getting behind it, or saying, hey, there's a better way. The input, the thinking of the alumni who have tremendous experience is most welcome. Of course, there are very pragmatic things about helping support, sometimes with donations, the new science and engineering building. And if one isn't interested in helping with that, perhaps the incubator, or of course scholarships for, helping typically young people go to school and learn some problem-solving skills, and off we go. So that support is tremendous. I think the other thing that the Alumni Association can do is to continue to be closely linked, maybe even elevate that, so that they know what's going on here. They are in their, say, local Seattle community, connected with each other for their own networking, and to bring the vision, bring the success, bring the opportunities to greater Seattle or Oklahoma or Florida, wherever it might be, to that region, so that we continue to attract and then select the very best students in the country, appreciating that it's a special place here at Case, not too big, but lean and mean and doing some creative stuff. So I think those very tangible things of connecting, of sometimes financial support, but really appreciating the model that we're doing, that's the key to success.
These are all great ideas for us to take back.
Terrific.
I have a few questions that were submitted from our viewers.
Great.
So let's start with that. So this one is specific to the Sparta system. So there seems to be a lot of issues with the Sparta system, which has been live for almost a year now. I understand that an upgrade was already in process before you came on board, but are there plans to at least make it as functional as the previous Sparta system? And when you answer, can you also explain to those unfamiliar with what the Sparta system is?
Yeah, sure. Sparta is software. And of course, it's Sparta because we're at Case Western. Every big university has some software where researchers typically, there's different kinds of Sparta, different aspects of it. But I think the question's about the research component of Sparta, and I'll briefly mention another part. But anyway, it's software, and you want to submit a grant. You have to enter it into the software. All the pieces of the grant come to budgets and resumes and all that stuff, and then it gets compiled, and then it goes in one piece, basically a PDF, to the federal government. The other part of it is if you want to, say, do work with human subjects, human beings as research, you have to go through a committee called the Institutional Review Board. There's an ethics committee that makes sure you're not going to hurt anybody.
Right.
That's also part of Sparta. It's not been functioning optimally. This is part of the, I'm going to say, endemic problem here that I'm asked to address, which is there's been less attention, underinvestment into the aspects necessary for super successful research enterprise. This is in some talent of people not supported. This is in laboratory settings, and this is in software such as Sparta. So my job is to fix that, and it's happening. Sparta's a little challenging because there's not much alternative. The company making Sparta, we call it Sparta, it's called Huron. They're a software company, and they dominate higher ed. So there's not much alternative. So it's more of a negotiation with the major player who always, I mean, I know the folks at Huron, they want to do good, but it's slow and it's expensive. And I think here's the key, that when Sparta is implemented or Huron is implemented here, as in every university, the details of how it's done typically fails to think about the perspective of the ultimate user, the researchers or the research administration staff. It is too often top down instead of bottom up. User experience that you know oh so well has been undervalued and underutilized. So we're trying to shift that.
Great.
People with the best intention, but with lack of, I want to say, urgency. The lack of urgency is what's preventing further success. Anyway, it's being fixed, and it's a terrific question.
Great. Well, thanks for the update on that one. Another question from the viewers. What are the strategic areas of research that the university plans to develop and grow in the next few years? It's a pretty open question, so we're looking to hear your response.
Yeah. The first thing to note is we're a comprehensive research university. There's amazing stuff going on in basically every corner. So when I say, here's what I want us to focus on, it's more of an invitation than a requirement.
Right.
In some sense, the faculty, well, actually in real, they don't work for me at all. So I'm not a corporate CEO type, though I'll tell you that I met with a senior research officer, a VP of R&D at a major global corporation. And I said, well, my problem is my researchers don't report to me. You have that advantage. And he said, not really. This is, the thing to first note is there's terrific stuff going on, and that should never be diminished. So what I'm talking about is an invitation for those who want to focus on areas, and let's be honest, where I can put some money to get things going. So as I mentioned before, a key thrust, which I think is good for Case Western Reserve, for the region, and I hope the nation and the world, is sustainable manufacturing in the broadest idea. So, whether we're making car parts, whether we're doing digital innovation for even agricultural stuff, sustainable manufacturing. That's happening. I'm putting lots of money and resources, not only in terms of seed grants, connections, but also partnering with the deans and others to hire terrific faculty and obviously support our current faculty. So sustainable manufacturing. Other big areas probably won't surprise anyone. Our friends at Intel are going to spend a little bit of money, a mere $20 billion to start with, down toward Columbus for building chips, microprocessors here in the United States more. This is part of the federal government strategy, the CHIPS Act, and so forth. So we want to have a really important semiconductor strategy. I like to expand this a bit in a bit of a silly way. I like to call it semiconductor stuff because, in my opinion, we're not probably going to, no one at a university will teach Intel how to make a better chip. Instead, it's all the auxiliary stuff, the testing, supply chains, all that sustainable stuff. That's where I think our action is. The nuanced, creative activities that we can partner with, say, the Intel R&D team. So that's part of the strategy, supporting semiconductor stuff, if you will, and all that that implies. I'm really interested as well as linking those two ideas. So one of the challenges of semiconductor production is it's very energy intensive. It's got some byproducts, and it's water intensive. We've got a little bit of a pond over here called the Great Lake. We want to make sure we protect that. So part of the semiconductor strategy is the sustainable manufacturing strategy where they overlap. Mm-hmm. Next, little thing called artificial intelligence that's becoming more and more important. Much like semiconductors, it's pretty clear that industry has surpassed research universities in semiconductor design and manufacture, as well as AI. So what's our AI strategy? Much like semiconductor, to work on the auxiliary, to think about how we can use AI for applications, whether it's for a heart monitor or a sensor, gunshots or whatever, right? AI is going to be everywhere, cars. So where can we use and exploit and enhance AI? And then part of it as well, I think we're uniquely positioned here at Case Western Reserve, is the questions about AI. I think this is where the social scientists and the humanities scholars, historians and ethicists and others have a really important role to play. What are we doing? And what does it mean? And frankly, what does it mean to say artificial intelligence? That scholarship is vital really to our global conversation. So I'm supporting all of that. And so those are the big things that I'm driving for. But again, there's a gazillion other little things, and it's terrific. There's one more I should have said, and forgive me. We also, as probably everyone knows, have a terrific medical system, medical school.
Correct.
And the research in the biomedical sphere is perhaps second to none, right? It's tremendous. The Cancer Center is the only, I think I'm still true, the only exemplary cancer center in the country, National Institutes of Health supported. So there's different rankings. We're exemplary or something like that. Terrific. So I work with the Dean of Medicine, Stan Gerson, who's a dear friend, to think about how we can enhance, again, not only the discovery of cells or molecules or potential drugs to eliminate suffering, but how do you go from that idea to actually doing it in someone's body, perhaps, whether it's a vaccine, a pill, a cellular thing to help cancer. So that pipeline is therapeutic discovery. And so we're working on, again, reducing friction, having the right incentives, having the right people to make that process of discovery to human trials and then deciding if it's helpful or not be faster, more effective, and frankly, less costly. The cost of this stuff is immense.
Right.
So that's another major component is therapeutic discovery.
Yeah, these are all great areas to kind of focus on. And as you said, these are few of the many that we are working on.
Few of the many.
Right.
The thing about a university is it's all these seeds, right? Some become flowers, and it's terrific. That's why I love, as opposed to more of a focused research institute, a comprehensive university is a super special place. And sometimes you just don't know where it comes from.
Yeah, they could be anywhere.
Yeah.
One follow-up question on the artificial intelligence response that you had. So we all know and see and hear that the artificial intelligence-based instruction and learning will happen even sooner than we believe. If you just see what's in the press in the last 60 days.
Yep.
So how will the university respond? What's your take on that?
Yeah. This is a conversation that the whole senior cabinet and obviously the faculty senate are having right now.
Yeah.
It's happening really fast, and so we're making decisions in real time. As probably everyone knows, you can get on this thing, ChatGPT, and ask a few questions and get out your essay on Shakespeare. So that, in some sense, is a threat, but a tremendous opportunity. So I don't know exactly how this will connect down to, say, an undergraduate first semester course, but it's going to about the ethics of writing your own paper,
Right.
going to about embracing the new tool, supercharge Google if you want, to use it to learn more, be more effective, maybe solve more problems, and also, I'd hope, have a deep understanding of what it means from a humanistic perspective. So the conversation's ongoing. The professors who teach the class obviously have the most important say in that conversation. And I think we're all struggling, but also super excited and moving fast of how to make it all work. That's the best answer I can offer.
So more to come.
More to come, for sure.
So as you're building the research dollars, is there an emphasis on building up departments or central to meet the additional administrative research needs? You talked about a little bit about the new model you're putting in place. So
Yeah.
looks like a very specific question.
I love the question, focus on departments. My answer is no. But no in an asterisk sort of way. I'm interested in growing research, which is usually about researchers, professors, sometimes called principal investigators,
Right.
the leader of the team, investing in people, them and their teams, and often, let's hope it's collaborative, as opposed to departments. Now, departments are vital to a research university. It's in some sense a home base, chemistry or engineering or Weatherhead School of Management. This cannot go away. But from my perspective as the sort of research leader or administrator, I want to bring people together to work on problems regardless of their department. One thing I'm doing right now is we're having some meetings with the other great universities in the area to think about how to understand the impact of the East Palestine rail derailment and the toxic exposures in that area. So this is a good model for what I'm talking about. We bring people together from all kinds of departments, from epidemiology, toxicology, engineering, history, and so forth, economics. Put them together and say, here's a problem of we have a bit of a disaster or certainly something super scary. Who can help answer that question of what happened, what's the impact, and how do we prevent it? So the departmental focus is important for home bases, must not change, but my driving emphasis is to bring people together from wherever they are, all the departments, to work on a problem to be addressed. So, long way to say, not departments per se, though they must not go away, but focused on teams of researchers from all kinds of departments to address really important problems for the world.
So it goes back to your collaboration and teamwork.
All collaboration and teamwork. When I was a young graduate student, I had some terrific mentors. I just stumbled into this. I was so lucky, changed my life. One of them said to me, all research is relationships. And I don't know, I was probably 24 years old, and it stuck. And now that I'm sort of an executive person, I couldn't agree more. I just didn't know it for 30 plus years.
Great. So we have one last question. Can you speak on the partnerships with industry on internships and co-op opportunities and collaboration specifically on technology research and development?
Yeah, terrific question. Most universities, including ours, have not done I'm going to say optimal job of this issue of collaborating with industry, big and small, to offer opportunities for our students and our faculty to engage, to work together. And this is continuing an unfortunate and totally unnecessary divide between academics and industry. That moat or barrier or wall has to be demolished. We need more interaction, not changing of roles. I don't want to be 3M's R&D department, but I want to work with them.
Right.
And I want our students, undergraduate and graduate students, to move back and forth. In fact, I want our faculty to move back and forth. Sure, there's sabbaticals, but why not just a day? A day of meeting someone at 3M or Lubrizol or Medtronic, terrific. Come on back and share what you know. So the interaction is the key. One of the challenges big universities have is, let's just say Medtronic wants to do some stuff with us. They call someone at the university, and they might not get their call returned or their email returned because a professor or administrator doesn't realize the importance.
Yeah.
And then the response is, well, the university doesn't want to work with us. Well, who do you mean at the university, right? We don't have an organized way to coordinate and collaborate all of the wild stuff going on of this amoeba of an institution. So what I did at my prior place was to create in partnership, again, with other senior leaders, affectionately called a corporate engagement center. Really a coordinating group, a virtual office, if you will, not highly staffed, but some group of people who understand, oh, who's talking to Lubrizol or Medtronic or that small startup? Not to block, but to say, okay, these folks are talking with those folks. And then if other groups on campus want to talk with them, share that information so the left hand knows what the right hand is doing. Same thing with student internships. If our faculty are engaged with, I don't know, a national lab, the students should benefit from that. So that's, again, sharing information and connecting the research apparatus with the training or academic apparatus. The Corporate Engagement Center, forgive the metaphor, is a bit of a point guard. You know, they're the one coordinating all that. This has to happen. And I think the leading universities are doing this, and we're doing it here. So that's happening literally right now. And I think that'll greatly enhance the opportunities, the successes, the sharing for all involved, undergraduates who are looking for a summer internship, to the companies, let's just say, 3M, Lubrizol, Gojo locally, who want our best talent. They get to meet them, and it's a terrific opportunity for the companies, as you know from your organization, to have young people typically come in, spend a summer, do great stuff, and then see who loves the work, who's good at it, and who you want to hire. So that's the goal.
Great. I want to thank our viewers for your questions today. I want to thank Michael for sharing his vision for case research and technology management areas. We're glad to have you on our team. To our viewers, thank you for joining us today. Should you have any additional questions or comments on today's subject matter, please pass them on to the Alumni Association, and email address will be displayed on the screen momentarily. Thank you again. It's been great talking to you.
Thank you. Such an honor to be with you.
Thank you.